So now these two entities are linked together, which is good, and we can start using them. What I want to show you one trick, because whenever you select any of these variables here, you can see that they are all optional. So when we use it, actually creates extra code for us, because any of the time, let's say we have to use the name of the loan, because it's an optional, we need to put double quotes and put a default value in case if it's nil. So what I want to do is to select both of these files, and then for our code gen class defined, I'm going to put it on manual. It means that I will manually create a class for these two entities. Technically, you don't have to do this if you want to just put default values every time you are using any of the parameters. But just to show you how you can get rid of that, I'm going to do that. So once you click on manual, then you have to select both of your entities, or as many as you want. Go to the editor, and then create NS-managed subclass. So this will show you the name of your application. Make sure it's selected. Click next. Then you can put the ticks here for all the entities you want to create NS-managed object subclass. Click next and click create. So this creates 4 files, 2 for each of our entity. I'm going to right click on them and new group with folder. Let's call this model. And I'm going to drag it into our model here. All right. So we have our model, and let me move this down. So let's go to our loan CoreData properties. Here you can see all the properties. This is automatically created for us. Just make sure that you are not going to change any of these already existing things. Otherwise, your code will break. What we can do is add something extra to it. What I'm going to add is a public var wrapped value, wrapped name, which is going to return a string. And we are going to return our name from here. Let's see, it's an optional. And if there is nothing, I will just return like unknown. All right. So now every time we want to use a name, I'm going to use this wrapped name, which automatically checks if in case we don't have a name, it's returning a string, not an optional. Right. And then another thing we want to do is our payment here. Payments is 1. Okay, you see there, I forgot to do one thing because we said each loan is going to have multiple payments, but I forgot to set it one-to-many relationship. And now our code generation is showing that each loan has only one payment, which is again optional. So let's jump quickly back to our loan CoreData object. Go to our loans here, select the payment, and it says type is to 1. What we want to do is to say too many. So each loan can have multiple payments. The bad thing is we have to regenerate our code. I'm going to cut this. Let's delete all of this. Move to trash. And let's regenerate our files again. Next, next, and create. And let's move them to our model. And let's go back to our loan again. You can see now the payments is actually an NS set and not a payment as we had before. So let me put this back, the wrapped name. And now another wrapper I'm going to use is for this NS set, because it's easier to work with the array. So we're going to convert this optional NS set, which is left over from a long time ago when we still had an Objective-C. Actually, we still do have an Objective-C, but we have moved to Swift, most of the developers anyway. So we want to convert this NS set to a proper array so that we can use it. What we are going to do, again, we say public var payment array. And this is going to return an array of payment objects. All right. So we have this optional NS set, we want to convert it into array of payments. So let's say let set is equals to payments as set of payment. Otherwise, if it's nil, we put a default value here of empty set. The set is the Swift version of NS set. Now we have this set we want to return. We take our set and then we want to sort it, because we want to sort by our payments by their date. And in order to sort it, we are going to use sort by, and just put your curly braces. And here we want to sort by date. So we say $0 dot date is smaller than $1 dot date. And again, we have the same problem here. The date is an optional. Yes. So if we don't want to use our tricky shortcut here, we are going to provide here a default value. But since we don't want to do that, let's go to our payment. And here we are going to, again, get this wrapped like we did there, var date. Let's call this wrap date. And this is going to return a date object. And here I can return my date, or if it's nil, just create a current date and return that instead. Get back to this, and instead of date, we say we want the wrap date, which should remove our error because wrap date is not an optional. Command P to build. Okay, the build failed because we have here unfinished things, but in our manually created CoreData subclass files, everything is set as we need them. Cool. Let's close this model here, and we can get back to our add loan view model here. So our loan here is going to be, we are going to create an NS managed file, NS managed entity. With context, and context we are going to get from our persistent controller dot shared dot view context, and this is our persistence here. This persistent controller shared is, this is a singleton, so we access our shared, which is initializing our struct here, and then we get the view context. Once we have the view context, we can set our parameters. So we say let, not let, loan object, then we set our ID is equals to UUID, and let's get the UUID string here. Then we set the name is equals, and whatever our name here is, we're going to put that. Then we say loan dot total amount is equals to, and because our amount is string, but remember we changed our keyboard type so we can put only numbers, we are going to convert this string into a double. So I will say double, and then we pass our amount, because this may fail. Let's say if somebody just copy and paste something alphabetical into the field, this will not be available as a double because we cannot convert it. We will just provide a default value for that cases, and it's going to be 0. The start date is our start date, and due date is equals to due date. Okay, we have created an object which is NS managed object, which is going to be saved in our CoreData. So let's save it. We say persistent controller, again we access the shared, and remember the save function we have created, we call that. So we call save on it. Let's go to our add loan view, and in our save button we are going to utilize our new function, which is view model dot save loan. Okay, and our button is only available if all the information is filled. Let's run our application and try to save our first loan. Loan 1 amount, let's put 20,000. Start date and end date, I'm going to put 1 year from now. And click done. So we didn't get any errors from our save function, which says error saving CoreData. It means the save was successful, but since we are not fetching and showing anything, visually we still see our 5 rows. So let's fix that. Let's instead fetch our information from our CoreData. So at the top here, after our, actually let's put first environment, and I want to get my managed object context. Okay, so this environment object we are passing here to all our, actually our entry point is all views, all loans view, and we are setting this environment object for our managed object context to be whatever we have here. So now we have access to that. If you don't have this line here and you try to access it, your application will crash. So we have this view context, all right? So we can use the view context in order to get our items. So now I'm going to create a fetch request. And each fetch request has a sort, an entity, a sort descriptor, predicate, all this information you can pass. But for us, I'm going to only use the sort descriptor and the animation. So let's get rid of this. So sort descriptor is accepting an array of NS sort descriptors. So we are going to tell our CoreData how we want our value that we want back, how we want it sorted. So let's create an array. I'm going to pass only one sort descriptor here, which is NS sort descriptor. And we're going to initialize it with a key and ascending option. The key, how we want to sort it, I want to get my loan object and sort them by start date. Ascending, let's say true. So this is our sorting descriptor. Let's put a comma here because I want to pass the animation as well. And this is going to be our default animation. So whenever something is changing in our CoreData, we will get like animated insert into our table. Okay, so our fetch request is created, and this will be a private var loans, which are type of fetch results, and we are getting back loan objects. Okay, so let's see what's the error here. Cannot convert value of type reference with. It should be actually a key path, not a key. So the key path will be loan start date, ascending true, and I just put everything on a separate line. All right, so it's easier to read. So we have our sort descriptor, and then we have our animated. So now these loans, everything is in our CoreData for our loans. We are going to fetch it and show it. So let's go to our list. And instead of 0 to 5, I'm going to say loans. And then we are going to get a loan in. You can name your variable as you want, but I don't want to leave it as I. So let's say instead of row here, I'm going to pass the name of my loan. Let's lose the wrap name. Just for you to understand what it would be without this wrap name, if I put a name here, it will tell me that we want a default value because this is an optional, and every time you had to have this like an empty string here, which is not very nice. So that's why we move it to our class there. So we'll say wrapped name. Let me run my application. And now if we open, we should see our loan 1 here because this is the only loan we have. Let's create another one. Amount, let's say this is for 30,000 and I don't know, let's say end of May. Now when I dismiss, we can get both of them because it's automatically fetching everything from our CoreData and displaying it here. Everything is nice and cool. Our UI we are going to change and have a custom rows here, but apart from that, our functionality is working properly. So let's close this. And what I'm going to do is create a row that is going to display instead of our loan name here, we are going to display that one and with extra information, of course. So let's create a new file here. And while we are here, let's select our two views, right click, new group from selection, and I'm going to call this presentation because our files are getting bigger and more files. Let's properly put them where they're supposed to be. And the view model, I'm going to call this domain and put them there. Our model is already there, and we can actually select these two and put them into new group from selection and put them this is going to be our core data. All right, in our presentation, I'm going to create a new SwiftUI file. This is going to be our loan cell. So every loan cell we want to show, let's get to our ready application. So we have the name of the loan, the amount, and the date. So we need 3 parameters here, or you could pass in the whole loan object, but I'm going to create 3 variables. Name is of type string, var amount is of type string. Actually, you don't have to have this var because they are not going to be changed anyway. So say let date is of type date. Right, all of this will be passed in every time we create a loan cell. So our preview is complaining because we have to pass the information. Let me put my canvas here. So the name, let's say test loan, amount, let's put 100, due date just today. Okay, so this will make our preview working. 100 amount should be double. Okay, so our body is going to be H stack because we want to put everything horizontally. This is our H stack, and in our H stack first we have a V stack because we have these two objects one top of the other, and then some space to push everything apart, and just the text on the other side. So we say V stack here. I want to align it leading, spacing of 5, and content is this. We just put the text. The first text is the name. Let's give it some font of headline and make it semi-bold. And copy this. The second one is our amount. Our amount I want to format is as a currency. So you can put a comma here, put a format, and then you can pass currency here. And you need to provide a code. Now, depending from the country you are, you can provide a code here. I'm in Europe, so I will put a euro code. So this will by default put the euro sign there. USD, I think, for dollar, or any other currency code that you want. At the font here, I want to make it a little bit smaller. So let's put sub headline. And instead of semi-bold, let's make it light. All right, so now if I put another text here, let's duplicate this. Actually, it should be outside of our V stack, but still in our H stack. So if I put a text here, and we need to put our date, and we want to format our date, formatted date and time. Date I want to have abbreviated, and time we don't really need, so we say omitted. We don't need the time. So now you see how they are stuck together. What we can do is simply put a spacer here. It will push everything apart. Right, so this is our cell. Every loan cell will be like this. So now we can go back to our all loans view, and instead of printing this text here, we can say loan cell, and then we pass our name, which is loan.wrapped name. Amount will be our loan dot total amount. The date will be loan dot due date. And here again we need to pass these default things. What we can do is again jump back to our model. Loan, let's put this wrapped date. Actually our payment already has it, so let me just quickly copy this over, and we will have our date. As you can see, our total amount, it should be due date. Our total amount is not optional, so we don't have to have wrapped value for that one. So let's go to our all loans here, and loan due date, we say wrapped date here. And let's run to see if this is working. So we have our loan 1, loan 2 amounts, and the dates. Everything is nice. Let's add another one. Let's put this for 5K. Keep the date now. All right, so the sorting is working as well. The most old loan goes first, which is due date is the last. You can change the order if you want. Just go and do the sorting here. You can ascending to false if you would like, but I'm going to keep it this way. So we have our loans. What we want to do is every time we click on each loan, we want to go to our payments view, where we are going to get all the payments of the loan and show, and also some more information about our payments. You can see from the ready application. So we get the name of the loan, we get this progress bar, and all this separation and sorting.